Is Maul Shadow Lord better than Andor? If you believe the initial reviews, apparently yes. Dave Filoni's latest hobby horse just launched, and everyone's praising its darker tone and more mature subject matter. That and the stylish animation. I've heard a lot of people saying it's the next Andor. I feel like I must be going crazy, or maybe my Disney Plus is broken because there's no way I'm watching the same thing as everyone else. With only 2 episodes out, it's too early to judge the overall story, but I can tell you one thing for sure. The show is beautiful and a cool concept that could turn out to be great. But this is nothing like Andor. People seem to have forgotten what was good about Andor, if they ever knew it in the first place. It wasn't the different perspective or the mature themes or the darker tone. None of that makes any sense. The Acolyte had a dark tone. The Bad Batch wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The Clone Wars had its sinister and somber moments too. Honestly, Star Wars has always been quite dark and mature in its themes. Not in the same way as Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, obviously, but neither is Maul. Star Wars has never shied away from addressing evil, cruelty, death, war, and politics. I think what people mean is that Star Wars is heroic in its orientation, telling a story of good ultimately triumphing over evil, light over darkness, whereas modern shows more often feature anti-heroes who deconstruct the whole idea of good versus evil. Maul, so far, is about such an anti-hero, a villain going after other villains. But Andor wasn't. It was about rebels who had to make difficult decisions and sacrifices in order to accomplish the greater good. Nor was the more gritty, grounded story, as opposed to the epic story of the movies, what made Andor great. That was the one thing people didn't like about it, and probably why it had such low ratings relative to its quality. The most common complaint I heard is that it didn't feel Star Wars enough because it wasn't about Jedi or big battles or grand events. And yeah, the Jedi are the most distinctive thing about Star Wars, so it makes sense that they've come to define the franchise. But Maul doesn't make that same mistake, indulging in plenty of fancy force slinging and flashy lightsaber action. That's where the show is the best, in my opinion, while it stumbles when it tries to delve into the gritty underworld intrigue. So no, it wasn't any of the surface stuff that made Andor great, and you can't recreate it by imitating the perspective or setting or tone. Maul will have to prove itself on the same terms that made Andor such a success, the writing. Andor worked because the story was intelligent, the characters complex, the stakes real, and the dialogue sharp. The quality went far below the surface to everything it did, which is why it is sometimes hard to say exactly what makes it so good. So how does Maul stack up so far? Well, let's compare. Before we get into the direct comparisons, just take a moment to enjoy where there really isn't any. Maul is a beautifully animated show, a mix of the old Clone Wars style with hints of Arcane and Bad Batch and Visions. The show takes place mostly at night, amid the lights of towering skyscrapers and smoke and smog-filled back alleys of Janix. Street lamps cast long shadows and police sirens spray beams of red and blue across the scenes. Neon lights wash the background in shades of blue and purple and green. When Maul ignites his lightsaber, its flickering corona in the fog gives a sharp sense of the ferocity behind the blade. The action is frequent and mostly fantastic. In the first 2 episodes, there's a bank heist, a gang shootout, 2 high-speed chases, and a jailbreak in the police headquarters. Maul is hunting down the underworld bosses who betrayed him, and the show doesn't waste time on boring things like planning or explaining any of it, cutting away from the action only to introduce the new Jedi apprentice and her master, or follow the police detective trying to get to the bottom of it. In that sense, you really can't compare it to Andor at all, which was a very slow burn, taking 3 much longer episodes to set up and execute a single heist. But which you prefer is a question of preference, not quality. The easiest place to notice a show's quality of writing is in its dialogue. You can feel when it sounds natural or forced, or realistic or contrived. It's not the only measure, of course, and it's not like Star Wars has been known for its incredible dialogue.
Are you an angel?
I don't like sand.
Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
But it's one place where Andor stood out. Listen to this exchange between 2 distrustful rebel leaders, Luthen and Saw.
The garrison at Aldani. Was that you?
I was just about to ask you the same thing.
You'd never tell me if it was.
Somebody's sitting on some dosh.
Well, if that someone is you, I'm hoping you'll put it to good use.
Would I be out here in the cold If I had just pinched 100 million credits,
That's exactly what you do.
and that's exactly what I would say if I were you.
If you're trying to convince me it was you, it's working.
Let's agree. It was a masterpiece.
Wow, no, I'm sure.
Now listen to this conversation in Maul between two rival gang bosses, Vario and Demas.
Vario.
Demas, you're looking grandiose as ever.
At least I fill the suit.
Been a while since we had a meet, huh?
No reason until now.
I know we agreed on neutral territory, but couldn't you pick a nicer place? Looks like a Wookiee bathhouse. Well, Chobasa.
Choba.
Heard about the bank. Pity. Any idea who pulled that one?
I was hoping you could tell me.
Well, you got a lot of enemies. Could have been anyone.
None of them had the nerve to pull something like this off.
Well, one person, maybe.
He's long gone. Besides, why would he come after me?
You betrayed him.
Then he'd be after you, too.
Maybe he is.
Or maybe that's what you want me to think.
Why would I want to start a war with you, Demas? I got too much to risk.
Make me look weak. Try to take over my territory.
Trust me, that is not how I would go about it.
Oh, yeah? Well, how would you go about it?
Do I need to explain which one is better? Or can you feel it? Forget about the content for a moment and just think about the tone, the pacing, the back and forth, the subtext. Which one actually sounds like two real people, real rivals, talking about a real situation? Which one sounds like it's out of a cartoon? And that has nothing to do with the animation. We could look at examples from the police detective and his droid, or Maul and his crew, or Devon and her master. It's not great, often stilted and contrived, meant to move the plot along rather than simply what the character would say. And so it often feels like they're talking to the camera or reciting lines. That's not a death knell for the show. Frankly, it's common. Andor's level of dialogue is the real rarity. Maul is merely average.
And something else.
Both Andor and Maul feature investigations by local police in their opening episodes, which offers a good comparison between the world building of both shows. In these cases, the police don't want to get the Imperials involved because they will completely take over the planet. The situations are so similar that it seems impossible Maul didn't take inspiration from Andor, but there's a key difference. In Andor, the police chief is benignly corrupt, just wanting to get on with his business without causing any trouble for himself or his department, even if he has to fudge some numbers and overlook questionable incidents. That's just how a bureaucracy works, and the status quo is kept. And we see how wise it was when Cyril overturns everything in his zeal for justice, ultimately causing catastrophe on Ferrix. It's not a simple answer, nor merely a convenient one, but one that develops the Kafka-esque themes of the show and gives context to Cyril's character and motivations. Maul simplifies this whole idea down to not wanting any Imperial interference, but we don't know exactly why not. Two Boots keeps saying they should tell the Empire, but Detective Lawson just says no because he doesn't want to. Maybe there's a good reason for it. Maybe there's some strife with the Empire going on, or maybe there's something about his character that makes him distrust the Empire, but the show doesn't tell us. So it comes across as convenient, a way to keep the Empire out of the story because otherwise the plot couldn't happen. To be fair to Maul, the show isn't over, so maybe we'll get some more development. And it's also much shorter than Andor, so it doesn't have much time to explain. It's also just not that important. The politics of the local police force may not have much to do with the story at all, so why waste time on it? But that's what made Andor so special and the writing so good. They put thought and care into everything. The details are what make the world come alive.
Seriously?
We could talk about character development, logical progression, setup and payoff, and lots of other places Andor is great. But the point isn't to praise Andor or to criticize Maul. Maul was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. The point is that it's a very different show than Andor, in style and in scale and in quality. That's fine. Let it succeed or fail on its own merits. But stop saying Maul is the next Andor. There's no comparison.